The old blue car made a terrible noise before it finally died. Steam poured out from under the hood like an angry dragon, and Maya knew this was it. Her car had given up, just like everything else in her life seemed to be doing lately. She stepped out onto the hot pavement and felt the Texas sun hit her face like a slap. The highway stretched endlessly in both directions, with nothing but flat land and scrub brush as far as she could see. Not a single building in sight, not even a gas station. Perfect, she whispered to herself, kicking at a small rock. Just perfect. Maya pulled out her phone, hoping for a miracle. No signal. Of course there was no signal. This day couldn't get any worse, could it? But then she remembered how it had started, and she realized, yes, it actually could get much worse. This morning, she had woken up excited. Today was supposed to be the day she and David would drive to Austin together. They were going to look at a small bakery that was for sale. It was her dream, a tiny place with big windows and enough space for maybe 6 tables. She had saved every penny for 3 years to make it happen. She had even made David's favorite chocolate chip pancakes for breakfast, humming while she cooked. Everything was packed in the car. Her grandmother's old recipe box, her baking tools, and 2 suitcases full of hope. "Maya, we need to talk," David had said when she handed him the plate of pancakes. Those 5 words changed everything. "I can't do this anymore," he continued, not even touching the food she had made with so much love. "This whole bakery thing, it's just not realistic. And frankly, I don't think you're cut out for running a business." Maya felt like someone had punched her in the stomach. "What are you talking about? We've been planning this for months. I've been thinking about it, and it's never going to work. You're a dreamer, Maya. You always have been, but dreams don't pay bills." She stared at him, this man she had loved for 3 years. This man she had supported through his own difficult times. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm done with this crazy business idea and with us." Maya's hand started shaking. "David, please. We can talk about this. If you don't want the bakery, we can find something else. We can work it out." But he was already heading toward the door. "I already packed my stuff. It's better this way, trust me. You'll see." "Where are you going?" "My brother's place in Dallas. I got a job offer there last week." "You got a job offer last week and you're just telling me now?" David shrugged. "Like I said, I've been thinking about this for a while." And just like that, he was gone. 3 years together, and he left like she meant nothing to him. Maya had sat in their empty apartment for 2 hours, crying until she had no tears left. Then she looked around at their shared life. The pictures on the walls, the couch they had picked out together, the coffee maker they used every morning. None of it was really hers. The apartment was in David's name. Most of the furniture was his. Even the car she drove belonged to him technically, but she still had her savings. She still had her dream. And she still had the appointment to look at that bakery in Austin. So she packed her things, which turned out to be much less than she thought, and took her own car. The old blue one her grandfather had left her. It wasn't much, but it was hers. The car had been making weird noises for weeks, but Maya couldn't afford to fix it. She had been putting every dollar toward the bakery fund. She thought if she could just make it to Austin, everything would work out somehow. But now she was stranded in the middle of nowhere, with $17 in her wallet and nowhere to go. Maya opened the hood and stared at the engine, even though she knew nothing about cars. Steam continued to pour out, and something was definitely broken. She could see liquid dripping onto the ground. A truck roared past, creating a wind that whipped her dark hair around her face. The driver didn't even slow down. She walked back to the car and sat in the driver's seat, leaving the door open to get some air. The heat was incredible. She had never felt anything like it. Maya pulled out her grandmother's recipe box and held it in her lap. Her grandmother had been a wonderful cook, famous in their small town for her apple pies and dinner rolls. She had taught Maya everything about baking when Maya was just a little girl. "Mija," her grandmother used to say, "cooking is about more than just food. It's about love. When you cook for someone, you're giving them a piece of your heart." Maya's grandmother had always believed in her dreams. Even when Maya was 8 years old and announced she wanted to have her own bakery someday, her grandmother had smiled and said, "Then you will, Mija. I know you will." But sitting in this broken car in this empty place, Maya wasn't sure anymore. Maybe David was right. Maybe she was just a dreamer who didn't understand how the real world worked. She opened the recipe box and looked at all the handwritten cards. Her grandmother had written each one so carefully, with little notes like add extra vanilla, people love vanilla, and don't overmix, it makes the cookies tough. There were recipes for everything: birthday cakes, holiday cookies, bread that was perfect with soup, and desserts that could make anyone smile. Maya had memorized most of them by heart. Another truck passed by, this one honking its horn as it went. Maya wondered if the driver was trying to be helpful or if he was just making fun of her situation. She looked at her phone again. Still no signal. The sun was getting higher in the sky and it was getting hotter by the minute. She had a bottle of water in her bag, but it was already getting warm. Maya thought about David again, probably already at his brother's house by now. Probably telling his family about how he had escaped from his crazy girlfriend and her impossible dreams. She thought about the bakery in Austin, waiting for someone to love it and take care of it. Someone who wasn't going to show up. She thought about her apartment, David's apartment, and wondered if he would pack up her things or just throw them away. But mostly, she thought about how alone she felt. More alone than she had ever felt in her entire life. Maya closed the recipe box and put it carefully back in her bag. She wasn't giving up yet. She couldn't. Her grandmother hadn't raised a quitter. She stood up and looked down the highway again. Somewhere in the distance, there had to be a town. There had to be people who could help her. Maya grabbed her bag and started walking. The sun beat down on her shoulders and the pavement was already burning hot even through her shoes. But she kept walking. She didn't know it yet, but this walk would change her life forever. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best things, even when we can't see it at the time. Every step she took was a step toward something new, something better than anything she had lost. But right now, all Maya knew was that she had to keep moving forward, because going back wasn't an option anymore. Maya had been walking for about 20 minutes when she heard the sound of another vehicle coming up behind her. This one was moving slower than the others, and as it got closer, she could hear it was a truck. She kept walking, not wanting to get her hopes up. So many cars and trucks had passed her already without stopping. Why would this one be any different? But then she heard the truck slow down even more and finally stop completely. Maya turned around and saw a dusty red pickup truck pulled over on the side of the road. The driver was getting out, a tall man wearing a cowboy hat and boots. He looked to be in his early 30s with kind eyes and a concerned expression. "You okay, miss?" he called out as he walked toward her. "Saw your car back there with the hood up." Maya hesitated. She had been taught never to get in cars with strangers, but she was in the middle of nowhere with no other options. Still, something about this man seemed different. "Safe. My car broke down," she said, staying where she was. "I was trying to walk to the nearest town." The man stopped a respectful distance away from her. "Well, the nearest town is about 15 miles that way," he said, pointing in the direction she had been walking. "That's a mighty long walk in this heat. I'm headed that way if you'd like a ride." Maya looked at him more carefully. He had an honest face and he wasn't pushy like some men might be. He was just standing there waiting for her answer. "I don't know," she said. "I mean, I don't know you." "Fair enough," he said with a small smile. "Name's Jake Wilson. I own a ranch about 10 miles from here. Been in these parts my whole life. You can call Sheriff Martinez when we get to town if you want to check that I'm not some kind of criminal." The way he said it made Maya laugh despite her situation. "Sheriff Martinez?" "Yeah, he's my cousin, actually." "Well, second cousin. His mama and my mama are cousins. You know how it is in small towns, everybody's related to everybody somehow." Maya found herself smiling. "I'm Maya," she said. "Nice to meet you, Maya, so what do you say? Want to get out of this heat? I've got air conditioning and cold water in the truck." The offer of air conditioning was almost too tempting to resist. Maya was already feeling dizzy from the heat and her clothes were sticking to her skin. "Okay," she said finally, "but I want to sit by the door." "Of course," Jake said. "Whatever makes you feel comfortable." As they walked back toward his truck, Jake asked, "What happened to your car?" "Engine trouble?" "I think so. There was steam everywhere and it just died. I don't know much about cars. Mind if I take a quick look? Might be something simple." When they reached Maya's car, Jake lifted the hood and studied the engine. Maya stood back and watched him. He seemed to know what he was looking for. "Well, there's your problem," he said after a minute. "Your radiator hose is busted. That's why all the coolant leaked out and your engine overheated. Is that expensive to fix?" Jake looked at her carefully, as if he was trying to figure out how to answer without making her feel bad. "The part itself isn't too expensive. Maybe $20? But you'll need to have it towed to a garage, and that'll cost more. Maya's heart sank. Between the towing and the repair, she was looking at probably more money than she had. We can figure that out later, Jake said gently. Right now, let's get you somewhere cool. You look like you're about to pass out. Maya realized he was right. She was starting to feel very dizzy and sick to her stomach. Come on, Jake said, taking her arm gently. Let's get you in the truck. The inside of Jake's truck was beautifully cool, and Maya sank into the passenger seat with relief. Jake handed her a cold bottle of water from a cooler behind the seat. Drink this slowly, he said. You're probably dehydrated. The water was the best thing Maya had ever tasted. She hadn't realized how thirsty she was. As Jake started the truck and pulled back onto the highway, he said, So what brings you to our neck of the woods? You don't sound like you're from around here. Maya hesitated. She didn't really want to tell this stranger about her whole sad story. I was supposed to look at a business in Austin, she said finally. But that's not happening now. What kind of business? A bakery. It was for sale and I had an appointment to see it today. Jake glanced over at her. You're a baker? Well, I want to be. I love to bake. I've been saving up to open my own place. That's real nice, Jake said, and Maya could tell he meant it. What kind of things do you like to bake? For the first time all day, Maya felt herself genuinely smile. Everything, really. But I'm really good at desserts. Cakes, cookies, pies. My grandmother taught me when I was little. I bet you make a mean apple pie, Jake said. Actually, I do. That was my grandmother's specialty. She was famous for her apple pies back home. Where's home? Oklahoma. Little town called Millfield. You probably never heard of it. Can't say I have, but I bet it's nice. They drove in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Maya looked out the window at the landscape. It was so different from Oklahoma, flatter somehow and drier. But there was something beautiful about it too. So what happened? Jake asked gently. If you don't mind me asking. You seem pretty upset about more than just car trouble. Maya looked at him. There was something about his voice that made her want to tell him everything. Maybe it was because he was a stranger and she'd probably never see him again. Or maybe it was just because he seemed genuinely kind. My boyfriend left me this morning, she said. We were supposed to make the trip to Austin together, but he decided he didn't want to be with me anymore. And he didn't believe in my dream of having a bakery. I'm sorry, Jake said simply. That's rough. 3 years together and he just walked out like it meant nothing. Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I think sometimes people leave right when we need them most because we're supposed to find something better. Maybe this bakery thing is supposed to happen differently than you planned. Maya looked at him in surprise. You really think so? I don't know you very well, Jake said, but I can tell you're a strong person. You didn't just sit in that broken car and cry. You got out and started walking. That tells me something about who you are. Maya felt tears start to form in her eyes, but they were different tears than the ones she had cried this morning. These felt like hope. Thank you, she said softly. For what? For stopping. For being kind? For listening, Jake smiled. My mama raised me to help people when they need it. She always said you never know when you might need help yourself. As they drove into the small town of Cedar Creek, Maya looked around with interest. It was the kind of place she had always imagined when she thought about having a bakery. Small and friendly, with a main street full of local businesses. Where would you like me to drop you off? Jake asked. Maya suddenly realized she had no idea. She had no plan beyond getting to a town. I guess I need to find a place to stay, she said, and figure out what to do about my car. Jake pulled up in front of a small motel with a sign that said, Henderson's Boarding House. Mrs. Henderson runs this place, he said. She's good people. Fair prices, and she makes the best breakfast in town. Tell her Jake Wilson sent you. Maya looked at the boarding house. It looked clean and friendly, with flowers planted in front and rocking chairs on the porch. Thank you so much, Maya said as she got out of the truck. I really don't know how to thank you enough. No thanks needed, Jake said. But Maya, yeah, don't give up on that bakery dream. This town could use a good bakery, and I have a feeling you're just what we need. Maya watched as Jake drove away, and for the first time since this morning, she felt like maybe everything was going to be okay after all. Mrs. Henderson turned out to be exactly as Jake had described, good people. She was a woman in her 60s with silver hair and warm brown eyes that seemed to see right through to Maya's soul. So Jake Wilson brought you here, did he? Mrs. Henderson said as she showed Maya to a small but comfortable room on the second floor. That boy has always had a good heart. If he vouches for you, that's good enough for me. The room had a single bed with a handmade quilt, a small desk by the window, and a view of the main street below. It wasn't fancy, but it felt safe and clean. I can give you a weekly rate if you need it, Mrs. Henderson said kindly. And breakfast is included. I make biscuits and gravy every morning at 7 sharp. Maya looked at her small pile of belongings, just 2 suitcases and her grandmother's recipe box. I need to find work first, she said. I don't have much money right now. Well, it just so happens that Ruby at the diner down the street is looking for help. She mentioned it at church last Sunday. Why don't you go talk to her tomorrow morning? That night, Maya lay in the unfamiliar bed and stared at the ceiling. 24 hours ago, she had been planning a completely different life. Now she was in a town she'd never heard of, with no car and barely any money. But somehow she didn't feel as scared as she thought she should. There was something about Cedar Creek that felt welcoming. Maybe it was Mrs. Henderson's kindness, or maybe it was the way Jake had stopped to help her without expecting anything in return. The next morning, Maya walked down to Ruby's diner. It was a classic small-town restaurant with red vinyl booths and a long counter where local farmers and ranchers sat drinking coffee and talking about the weather. Ruby herself was a woman in her 50s with bright red hair and an apron that had seen better days. She looked Maya up and down when she introduced herself. You ever worked in a diner before? Ruby asked. No, but I'm a hard worker and I learn fast, Maya replied. Can you handle being on your feet all day? Can you carry heavy trays? Can you deal with cranky customers who haven't had their coffee yet? Maya smiled. I can do all of that. Ruby studied her for another moment, then nodded. All right. You can start tomorrow, 6 in the morning. We serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's busy work, but the tips are decent if you're nice to people. Maya's first few days at the diner were exhausting. Her feet hurt, her back ached, and she spilled more coffee than she served. But she kept at it, determined to prove herself. On her 4th day, Mrs. Patterson, one of the regular customers, was celebrating her birthday. Ruby had ordered a cake from the grocery store, but when it arrived, it was clearly stale and the frosting was cracked. I can't serve this, Ruby muttered, looking at the sad cake. I could make a new one, Maya offered quietly. Ruby looked at her in surprise. You can bake? It's what I love to do most. Ruby glanced at the clock. We've got 2 hours before Mrs. Patterson gets here. Think you can make something decent in that time? Give me access to your kitchen and I'll make something better than decent. Maya had never worked in a commercial kitchen before, but she adapted quickly. She found the ingredients she needed and got to work on a simple but elegant chocolate cake with vanilla buttercream frosting. As she worked, she felt something she hadn't felt since David left. Pure joy. This was what she was meant to do. Her hands knew exactly how much flour to add, exactly how long to mix the batter, exactly when the cake was done. When Mrs. Patterson arrived for her birthday dinner, Maya brought out the cake herself. The whole diner fell quiet as people looked at it. The cake was beautiful. 3 perfect layers with smooth white frosting and delicate roses made from buttercream. But more than that, it looked like it had been made with love. Mrs. Patterson took one bite and her eyes got wide. Oh my goodness, she said. This is the best cake I've ever had in my life. Word spread quickly through Cedar Creek about the new girl at Ruby's who could bake like nobody's business. Within a week, people were coming to the diner specifically to see what Maya had made that day. Ruby was thrilled. Business was better than it had been in years. You're a natural, she told Maya. Where did you learn to bake like that? My grandmother taught me, Maya said. She always said that baking was about more than just following a recipe. It was about putting love into everything you make. Jake started coming to the diner more often, too. At first, Maya thought it was just because he wanted to try her baking, but she began to notice that he always sat in her section and always asked how she was doing. How are you settling in? He asked one afternoon as she refilled his coffee. Better than I expected, Maya said honestly. Everyone here has been so kind. That's Cedar Creek for you. We look out for each other. Maya had noticed that. When her car had finally been towed to the local garage, 3 different people had offered to lend her money for the repairs. When she mentioned she needed to buy some ingredients for a special cake, Mrs. Henderson had driven her to the grocery store without being asked. "Jake," Maya said, sitting down across from him during a quiet moment, "can I ask you something?" "Sure. What do you do?" "I mean, you mentioned you have a ranch, but I don't really know what that means." Jake smiled. "I raise cattle mostly. Some horses, too. It's been in my family for 3 generations. My grandfather started it, my father expanded it, and now it's mine." "That sounds amazing. Do you love it?" Jake's expression became more serious. "I do, but it's not easy. Especially doing it alone. My father died 2 years ago, and since then it's been just me trying to keep everything together." "I'm sorry about your father." "Thank you. He was a good man. Taught me everything I know about ranching, but he also taught me that land is only valuable if you can make it work for you." Maya could hear something in Jake's voice. Worry, maybe, or stress. "Is everything okay with the ranch?" Jake hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. "Can I trust you with something?" "Of course. I'm having some financial trouble. Cattle prices have been low, and I had some unexpected expenses last year when we had that bad drought. I'm trying to figure out how to make the ranch more profitable, but I'm running out of ideas." Maya felt bad for him. She could tell how much the ranch meant to Jake, and the thought of him losing it made her sad. "What about your workers? Do you have people who help you?" "I've got 5 guys who work for me. Good men, all of them. They work hard, but they're always complaining about having to drive to town for a decent meal. Most of them are single, and they can't cook much beyond beans and hot dogs." An idea started forming in Maya's mind. "Jake, what if I told you I might have a way to help both of us?" "What do you mean?" Maya leaned forward, excited now. "What if I could cook for your workers? I could make them breakfast and lunch every day, and maybe dinner too. They'd get good food. You'd have happier workers, and I could start building a catering business." Jake looked interested but cautious. "That's a nice idea, Maya, but I can't afford to pay you much right now." "You wouldn't have to pay me much. Just enough to cover ingredients and maybe a little extra. I could use your kitchen, and in exchange I'd feed your workers good home-cooked meals." Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking. "You'd really want to do that?" "Jake, I've been dreaming of having my own food business for years. This could be the start of something bigger, and your workers would be happier and probably work better if they were eating well." "That's true. A hungry cowboy is not a productive cowboy," my father used to say. Maya grinned. "So what do you think?" Jake extended his hand across the table. "I think we might just have ourselves a deal, Miss Maya." As Maya shook his hand, she felt something she hadn't felt since her car broke down on that highway. Hope for the future. Maybe this wasn't how she had planned to start her business, but it was a start. And sometimes, Maya was learning, the best things in life happened when you weren't planning them at all. Maya's first day cooking at the Lazy W Ranch was both exciting and terrifying. She had never cooked for so many people at once, and she had no idea what Jake's workers would think of her food. Jake picked her up at 5:30 in the morning, just as the sun was starting to rise over Cedar Creek. Maya had been up since 4, planning her menu and making sure she had everything she needed. "You nervous?" Jake asked as they drove toward the ranch. "Completely terrified," Maya admitted. "What if they hate my cooking? What if I mess everything up?" Jake glanced over at her with a reassuring smile. "Maya, I've tasted your baking. If you can cook half as well as you bake, my boys are going to think they've died and gone to heaven." The Lazy W Ranch was bigger than Maya had expected. The main house was a simple but sturdy 2-story building with a wraparound porch. There were several barns and outbuildings, and she could see cattle grazing in the distance. "It's beautiful," Maya said as they pulled up to the house. "Thanks. My great-grandfather built the original house in 1892. We've added on over the years, but the bones are still the same." Jake showed Maya to the kitchen, which was large and functional but clearly hadn't been updated in decades. The appliances were old but clean, and there was plenty of counter space. "I know it's not fancy," Jake said, looking a little embarrassed. "It's perfect," Maya said, and she meant it. She had learned to bake in her grandmother's simple kitchen, which had been much smaller than this one. Jake introduced Maya to his workers as they came in for breakfast. There was Tommy, a young man barely out of his teens who looked like he could eat 3 meals at once. Carlos was in his 40s with kind eyes and work-worn hands. Pete was the oldest, probably in his 60s, with a gray mustache and a skeptical expression. Danny and Mike rounded out the group, both in their 30s and clearly brothers based on their similar features. "Boys," Jake said. This is Maya. She's going to be cooking for us from now on. Pete looked Maya up and down. No offense, miss, but we're used to fending for ourselves. We're not picky eaters, but we eat a lot. How much is a lot? Maya asked. Tommy grinned. Well, yesterday I had 6 eggs, 8 pieces of bacon, and 4 pieces of toast for breakfast. And that was just to get started. Maya looked at Jake in surprise. He just shrugged. I told you they were good workers. Good workers need good food. Maya had planned to make pancakes, scrambled eggs, and bacon for her first morning. Looking at these 5 hungry men, she realized she might need to double everything. All right, she said, rolling up her sleeves. Give me about 30 minutes and let's see what we can do. Maya got to work with a confidence she didn't entirely feel. She started the bacon first, then mixed up batter for pancakes while the eggs were scrambling. The kitchen filled with the smells of breakfast, and she could hear the men talking quietly at the big table Jake had set up. When she started serving the food, the men fell silent. Maya had made pancakes that were fluffy and light, eggs that were perfectly creamy, and bacon that was crispy but not burned. She had also made fresh biscuits with honey butter, something she hadn't originally planned but decided to add when she saw how hungry everyone looked. Tommy took his first bite of pancakes, and his eyes got wide. Oh man, he said with his mouth full. These are incredible. Carlos nodded in agreement. My wife makes good pancakes, but these are something special. Even Pete, who had seemed the most skeptical, was eating with obvious enjoyment. You use buttermilk in these? He asked Maya. Yes, sir. My grandmother always said buttermilk makes everything better. Your grandmother was a smart woman. Jake was watching the whole scene with a big smile on his face. Maya could tell he was pleased with how well it was going. After breakfast, Jake showed Maya around the ranch while his workers headed out to start their day. She met some of the horses and saw the cattle up close for the first time in her life. They're bigger than I expected, she said, watching a group of black cows grazing peacefully. Those are Black Angus, good beef cattle, not the biggest breed, but they're hardy and they produce quality meat. As they walked, Jake told her about the ranch's operations. Maya found herself genuinely interested in learning about something so different from her own experience. What made you want to be a rancher? She asked. I never really thought about doing anything else, Jake said. This land has been in my family for over 100 years. My great-grandfather came here with nothing and built all this from scratch. My grandfather expanded it, my father improved it, and now it's my turn to keep it going. That's a lot of pressure, Maya observed. Jake looked at her in surprise. Most people don't understand that part of it. They think owning a ranch means you're automatically successful, but the truth is it's a constant struggle to stay profitable. Is that why you're having financial trouble? Jake nodded. Cattle prices go up and down based on things I can't control. Feed costs keep rising. Equipment breaks down and needs to be replaced. And when you have a bad year, like we did with that drought, it can set you back for years. Maya could hear the stress in his voice. But you love it, I do. I can't imagine doing anything else. This land, these animals, this way of life, it's who I am. They walked in comfortable silence for a while. Maya found herself stealing glances at Jake as he pointed out different aspects of the ranch. There was something solid and dependable about him that she found appealing. He was so different from David, who had always seemed to be looking for the next big thing, the next opportunity, the next level up. Jake seemed content with what he had, even if he was struggling to keep it. Jake, Maya said as they headed back toward the house. Can I ask you something personal? Sure. Are you married? I mean, I haven't seen a wife around, but I didn't want to assume. Jake smiled, but it was a sad smile. No, I'm not married. I was engaged once, about 3 years ago. Her name was Jennifer. She was a teacher in town. What happened? She decided ranch life wasn't for her. She wanted me to sell the place and move to Dallas, where she had a job offer. When I said no, she said she couldn't marry someone who would choose land over love. Maya felt a stab of anger on Jake's behalf. That's terrible, is it? I mean, maybe she was right. Maybe I am too stubborn, too set in my ways. Or maybe she just didn't understand how important this place is to you. The right person would understand. Jake looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. What about you? Besides the boyfriend who left, have you ever been close to getting married? I thought I was going to marry David, Maya said. 3 years together, and I really believed we were building a life together. But when things got hard, when my dreams didn't match his timeline, he just left. I'm sorry. That must have been devastating. It was. But you know what? Sitting here talking to you, I'm starting to think maybe it was for the best. Maybe we weren't as compatible as I thought we were. They had reached the house again, and Maya realized she needed to start thinking about lunch. What time do your workers usually eat lunch? Around noon. They work hard in the morning, then come in for food and a rest during the hottest part of the day. What do you usually feed them? Jake looked embarrassed again. Sandwiches mostly. Sometimes canned soup if it's cold outside. Maya shook her head. These men are doing physical labor all day in the heat. They need real food, protein, vegetables, carbohydrates, food that will give them energy and keep them healthy. You think you can manage that? Maya grinned. Jake, you have no idea what I can manage. For lunch, Maya made chicken and vegetable stew with fresh cornbread, a big salad with ranch dressing, and chocolate chip cookies for dessert. The men ate with the same enthusiasm they had shown at breakfast. Ma'am, Danny said as he reached for his third cookie, I don't know what Jake is paying you, but it's not enough. I have to agree, Carlos said. My Maria is a wonderful cook, but even she doesn't make cookies this good. Maya felt a warm glow of satisfaction. This was what she had always dreamed of. Cooking for people who appreciated good food, seeing their faces light up when they tasted something she had made. As the workers headed back out for the afternoon, Pete lingered behind. Miss Maya, he said quietly, I want to apologize for being skeptical this morning. I've worked on ranches for 40 years and I've never eaten this well. Thank you. Pete, that means a lot. After the kitchen was cleaned up, Maya and Jake sat on the front porch with glasses of iced tea. Maya felt more relaxed and happy than she had since arriving in Cedar Creek. So how do you think it went? Jake asked. I think it went pretty well. Your workers seem like good men. They are. And they're already asking what you're making for dinner tomorrow. Maya laughed. I'm glad they liked it. I was worried they might think I was too fancy or something. Maya, there's nothing fancy about good food cooked with care. That's exactly what these men need. And exactly what this ranch needs. As Maya watched the sun start to set over the rolling hills, she realized that for the first time since her car broke down, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. 3 weeks into her new arrangement with Jake, Maya had settled into a routine that felt more natural than anything she had ever done. She woke up at 4:30 each morning, spent an hour preparing breakfast ingredients, and then Jake would pick her up at 5:30 to head to the ranch. The ranch hands had become like family to her. Tommy, despite his enormous appetite, always offered to help her carry heavy pots. Carlos shared stories about his wife and 3 children, and asked Maya's advice about what to cook for their anniversaries and birthdays. Pete had started calling her Little Chef and bragged to everyone in town about her cooking, but it was her growing friendship with Jake that surprised Maya the most. At first, their conversations had been polite and practical. What to cook, when to serve meals, how much to buy at the grocery store, but gradually they had started talking about other things. Their childhoods, their dreams, their fears, their hopes for the future. Maya learned that Jake had always wanted to travel but had never been more than 100 miles from Cedar Creek. She told him about her grandmother's stories of Mexico, where their family had originally come from. Jake shared his worries about keeping the ranch profitable. Maya talked about her fear that she would never be good enough to run her own business. You know, Jake said one morning as they drove to the ranch, I've been thinking about what you said about diversifying income streams. What about it? Well, what if the ranch could be more than just cattle? What if we could bring in money from other sources too? Maya had suggested this idea the week before, after noticing how beautiful the ranch was and how much she enjoyed spending time there. What are you thinking? I don't know exactly. Maybe we could host events? Weddings, family reunions, corporate retreats? The land is beautiful, and with your cooking, we could offer something really special. Maya felt her heart skip a beat. This was exactly the kind of thinking that excited her. Jake, that's a brilliant idea. This place is perfect for events. The views are incredible. There's plenty of space, and the house has that authentic ranch feel that people love. You really think so? I know so. And think about it. If we could book even one event a month, that would bring in steady extra income. And if word got out about the food... Jake was quiet for a moment. You said we. Maya felt her cheeks get warm. I mean, if you wanted me to be involved. I know it's your ranch and your decision. Maya, without you, this would never have occurred to me. Of course I want you to be involved. I can't imagine doing it without you. There was something in Jake's voice that made Maya look at him more closely. He was focused on the road, but she could see a slight smile on his face. That afternoon, after the ranch hands had gone back to work, Jake and Maya walked around the property with new eyes. They imagined where a wedding ceremony could take place, where guests could dance, where they could set up food stations for a reception. The old barn would be perfect for dancing, Maya said, peering inside the large rustic building. It just needs some cleaning up and maybe some lights strung from the rafters. And we could set up tables outside under the big oak tree, Jake added. That tree is over 100 years old. My great-grandfather planted it when he built the house. Maya could picture it perfectly. Tables with white linens, string lights twinkling overhead, the smell of barbecue and fresh bread filling the air. Jake, this could really work. I'm starting to believe it might. They spent the next hour making plans and dreaming about possibilities. Maya felt more energized than she had in months. This was what she had been missing with David, a partner who shared her vision, who got excited about the same things she did. There's just one problem, Jake said as they walked back toward the house. What's that? I don't know anything about planning events. I can run cattle and fix fences and manage ranch hands, but wedding planning? Corporate retreats? I wouldn't know where to start, Maya grinned. Good thing you know someone who spent 3 years dreaming about running her own business. I may not know about cattle, but I know about customer service, menu planning, and making people happy. So we'd really be partners in this? If you want to be. Jake stopped walking and turned to face her. Maya, I want you to know how much this means to me. Not just the business idea, but having someone who believes in the ranch as much as I do. Maya felt something flutter in her chest. The way Jake was looking at her was different from how he usually looked at her. More intense, more personal. I do believe in it, she said softly. And I believe in you. For a moment, they just stood there looking at each other. Maya felt like something important was happening, but she wasn't sure what it was or what she should do about it. Then Tommy's voice broke the spell. Hey, boss. We've got a problem with the fence in the south pasture. Jake blinked and looked away. I should go deal with that. Of course, Maya said, trying to hide her disappointment. That evening, Maya couldn't stop thinking about that moment with Jake. She had felt something, a connection, an attraction, something she hadn't felt since the early days with David. But she also felt scared. What if she was misreading the situation? What if Jake was just being friendly and she was imagining something that wasn't there? What if she got involved with another man who would eventually leave her? The next morning, Jake seemed a little awkward around her, as if he was thinking about the same moment she was. Their usual easy conversation felt stilted and careful. Maya decided to focus on work. She had been experimenting with new recipes and had started getting requests from people in town to cater small events. Mrs. Henderson wanted her to make desserts for a church social. The hardware store owner asked if she could cater his daughter's graduation party. You're getting quite a reputation, Ruby said when Maya stopped by the diner to pick up some supplies. People can't stop talking about your cooking. That's good for business, Maya said, trying to sound casual. It's good for Jake Wilson too, I hear. His ranch hands are telling everyone in town how well they're eating these days. Maya looked at Ruby suspiciously. What do you mean by that? Ruby smiled knowingly. Oh, nothing specific. Just that Jake seems happier lately, more relaxed. And he talks about you a lot. He talks about me? Honey, that man comes in here 3 times a week for coffee, and somehow your name comes up in every conversation. Maya made the most amazing cornbread today. Maya thinks we should plant a vegetable garden. Maya has this idea about hosting events at the ranch. Maya felt her heart start beating faster. Really? Really? And between you and me, I haven't seen Jake show this much interest in anything, or anyone, since Jennifer left town. Maya didn't know what to say to that. She had been trying not to think about Jake as anything more than a friend and business partner, but hearing that he talked about her made it harder to ignore her growing feelings. That afternoon at the ranch, Maya and Jake were planning the menu for their first official catering event, Mrs. Patterson's 70th birthday party. It was a small job, just dinner for 20 people, but it felt like an important first step. What about music? Jake asked as they went over the details. I don't know much about hiring bands, Maya admitted. My cousin Danny plays guitar. He's got a group that does country and classic rock. They're not famous, but they're good. That sounds perfect. As they worked through the planning, Maya noticed that Jake seemed more relaxed than he had been in the morning. Their conversation was flowing naturally again, and he kept making her laugh with stories about previous birthday parties that had gone wrong. There was this one time, Jake said, when Mrs. Patterson's sister tried to make a surprise cake, but she accidentally used salt instead of sugar. Nobody wanted to hurt her feelings, so half the party spent the evening pretending to enjoy the saltiest chocolate cake in history. Maya laughed so hard she nearly choked on her iced tea. That's terrible, but kind of sweet too. That's small-town life for you. We're all a little crazy, but we look out for each other. I'm starting to understand that. Jake looked at her seriously. Are you happy here, Maya? Really happy? The question caught her off guard. What do you mean? I mean, a month ago you were planning to open a bakery in Austin. Now you're cooking for ranch hands and planning birthday parties in Cedar Creek. This is probably not what you imagined for your life. Maya thought about it carefully before answering. You're right, it's not what I planned. But you know what? I think it might be better. Better? In Austin, I would have been just another bakery owner trying to compete with dozens of other bakeries. Here, I'm building something unique. I'm part of a community. I'm making a difference in people's lives. Jake's smile was so warm it made Maya feel like the most important person in the world. I'm glad you feel that way. And Jake? Yeah, I really like working with you. We make a good team. We do, Jake agreed. A really good team. Maya felt that flutter in her chest again, stronger this time. She was starting to realize that her feelings for Jake were growing into something much bigger than friendship or business partnership. The question was, what was she going to do about it? Maya was kneading bread dough in Jake's kitchen on a peaceful Tuesday morning when she heard an unfamiliar car pull up outside. Through the window, she watched a shiny black sedan park next to Jake's pickup truck. Her blood ran cold when she recognized the man who stepped out of the driver's seat. David. Maya's hands froze in the bread dough as she watched him look around the ranch with obvious distaste. He was wearing an expensive suit that looked completely out of place among the barns and cattle, and his city shoes were already getting dusty from the dirt driveway. Maya, David called out as he approached the house. I know you're in there. Your landlady told me where to find you. Maya felt panic rising in her chest. What was David doing here? How had he found her? And why was he looking for her now, after walking out on her 6 weeks ago? Jake came around from behind the barn, having heard the unfamiliar voice. Maya watched through the window as David approached him. Excuse me, David said in his most condescending tone. I'm looking for Maya Rodriguez. I was told she works here. Maya couldn't hear Jake's response, but she could see from his body language that he was being polite but cautious. After a moment, Jake pointed toward the house and David headed for the front door. Maya quickly washed her hands and tried to compose herself, but her heart was beating so fast she felt dizzy. She had imagined this moment many times over the past weeks. What she would say to David if she ever saw him again. How she would show him that she was doing fine without him. But now that he was actually here, she felt like that broken-down woman on the highway again. The knock on the door was sharp and impatient, just like David himself. Maya opened the door and looked at the man she had once thought she would marry. He looked exactly the same. Perfectly groomed, expensive clothes. That confident smile that used to make her feel special but now just seemed fake. Hello, Maya, David said, as if 6 weeks of silence was nothing at all. What are you doing here, David? Can I come in? We need to talk. Maya glanced back at the kitchen where her bread dough was waiting and the lunch prep was only half finished. I'm working. I can't talk right now. David pushed past her into the house anyway, looking around with obvious judgment. This is where you've been living? Maya, this is beneath you. No, David, this is where I work. I live in town. Same difference. Look at this place. It's like something out of the 1950s, and that cowboy outside looks like he hasn't showered in a week. Maya felt a surge of anger. Jake is a good man and a hard worker. Don't you dare insult him. David raised his eyebrows. Jake, is it? How well do you know this guy, Maya? Do you have any idea how dangerous it could be? A woman alone, working on some isolated ranch? I'm not a woman alone. I have friends here, people who care about me. Friends? David laughed, but it wasn't a nice sound. Maya, these people don't really care about you. You're just entertainment to them. The exotic city girl who can cook. Give it a few more months and they'll get bored with you. Maya felt like she'd been slapped. Why are you here, David? What do you want? David's expression changed, becoming the charming smile he used when he wanted something. I want you to come back to Dallas with me. What? I made a mistake, Maya, a big mistake. These past few weeks without you have been terrible. I miss you. I miss us. Maya stared at him in disbelief. You miss me? You walked out on me when I needed you most. You said I was a dreamer who would never succeed. I was scared, David said, stepping closer to her. Your dreams were so big and I was afraid you'd be disappointed when they didn't work out. I thought I was protecting you from getting hurt. By breaking up with me and leaving me stranded. That was wrong. I know that now. But Maya, look what you've accomplished. You've proven you can cook professionally. You've shown you can make it on your own. I'm proud of you. Maya felt confused and angry at the same time. You're proud of me now? Now that I've succeeded without you? I always believed in you. I just expressed it badly. No, David, you didn't believe in me at all. You thought I would fail. David reached for her hands, but Maya pulled away. Maybe I did doubt you before, but I don't now. I've been asking around about you, Maya. People in Dallas are talking about a brilliant chef who's making waves in some small town. I heard you're starting an event planning business. Maya's blood ran cold. You've been asking around about me? Of course I have. I care about you. And when I heard how successful you're becoming, I knew I had to come get you. Come get me?
Maya, think about what you could accomplish in Dallas with your skills.
Real restaurants, real clients, real money. Not this small-time stuff in the middle of nowhere. This isn't small-time stuff. These are real people with real lives, and I'm building something meaningful here. David looked around the kitchen again with that same judgmental expression. Meaningful? Maya, you're cooking for ranch hands.
In Dallas, you could be cooking for celebrities, politicians, business leaders.
You could have your own restaurant, maybe even a TV show someday. Despite herself, Maya felt a little flutter of interest. She had always dreamed of having her own restaurant, and the idea of cooking for famous people was tempting. I can see you're thinking about it, David said, moving closer again. Maya, I have connections in Dallas now. I can introduce you to investors, restaurant owners, food critics. I can help you build the career you've always wanted. And what would you get out of it? David's smile became more genuine. I'd get you back. The woman I love. The woman I was too stupid to hold on to the first time. Maya felt tears starting to form in her eyes. Part of her, the part that had loved David for 3 years, wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe that he really did love her, that he really had just been scared, that they could somehow make it work this time. But another part of her remembered the pain of being abandoned, the humiliation of begging him not to leave, the devastating loneliness of being stranded on that highway. I don't know what to say, Maya said honestly. Say you'll think about it. Say you'll give us another chance. Before Maya could respond, Jake's voice came from the doorway. Maya, is everything okay in here? Maya turned to see Jake standing in the kitchen doorway, looking concerned. His clothes were dusty from ranch work, his hair was messy from the wind, and his boots were muddy. Next to David's polished appearance, he looked rough and simple, but Maya had never been happier to see anyone in her life. Everything's fine, Jake, she said. This is David, he's someone I used to know. Jake nodded politely at David, but Maya could see the tension in his shoulders. The boys are asking what's for lunch. Oh, the bread. Maya rushed to the counter where her dough had been rising. It was perfect, ready to be shaped and baked. You're making bread from scratch? David asked incredulously. Maya, you can buy perfectly good bread at the store. Jake's expression darkened. Store-bought bread doesn't taste like love. David looked at Jake like he was speaking a foreign language. Excuse me? Maya's bread tastes like love, Jake said simply. Like someone who cares made it special just for you. You can't buy that at any store. Maya felt her heart flutter. Jake understood something about her cooking that David never had. That's very poetic, David said with barely concealed sarcasm. But it's also inefficient. Maya, in Dallas, you could focus on creating signature dishes instead of wasting time on basic bread. It's not wasting time, Maya said quietly. It's what makes the meal special. David looked back and forth between Maya and Jake, and she could see him starting to understand the situation. Maya, David said, his voice becoming harder. Can we talk privately?
Anything you want to say to Maya?
You can say in front of me, Jake said, crossing his arms. Actually, I don't think it's any of your business what Maya and I discuss. Maya is my business partner and my friend. If she's uncomfortable, then it is my business. Maya could see this was about to become an ugly confrontation between the two men, and she didn't want that. "It's okay, Jake," she said. "David, you can say whatever you want to say right here." David looked frustrated, but he continued. "Fine. Maya, I'm offering you everything you've ever dreamed of. A real career in a real city with real opportunities. What can this place offer you?" "What can he offer you?" Jake was quiet for a moment, then said, "I can offer her respect. I can offer her partnership. I can offer her a place where her dreams matter as much as mine do." "Dreams don't pay the bills," David shot back. "Maya's dreams are paying the bills just fine," Jake replied. "And she's happy. Really happy. When's the last time you cared about whether she was happy?" David's face flushed red. "You don't know anything about our relationship. I know she cried for 3 days straight when she first got here. I know someone hurt her so badly she didn't think she could trust anyone again. And I know whoever did that to her doesn't deserve to have her back." Maya looked at Jake in surprise. She hadn't realized he'd noticed how hurt she'd been, or that he'd been paying such close attention to her healing process. "Maya," David said, turning back to her desperately, "don't let some cowboy's pretty words fool you. I'm offering you the real world. Success, money, prestige, everything we used to talk about." Maya looked at David, handsome, successful, offering her everything she had once thought she wanted. Then she looked at Jake, dusty, simple, offering her something she was just beginning to understand the value of. For 3 days, Maya felt like she was living in 2 different worlds. During the day, she worked at the ranch with Jake, but their easy friendship had become strained and awkward. Jake was polite but distant, and Maya caught him watching her with sad eyes when he thought she wasn't looking. In the evenings, David would take her to dinner at the only restaurant in Cedar Creek, talking about Dallas and all the opportunities waiting for her there. He had brought a folder full of information, photos of upscale restaurants, business cards from potential investors, even a rough business plan for a catering company he insisted they could start together. "Look at this space," David said on Wednesday night, showing her photos of a downtown Dallas location. "It's available for lease, and I know people who could help us get a loan. You could have your own restaurant, Maya. Your name on the door, your menu, your vision." Maya looked at the photos. The space was beautiful, modern, sophisticated, exactly what she had always imagined when she dreamed of her own restaurant. "It's amazing," she said honestly. "And this is just the beginning. Once you establish yourself in Dallas, the sky's the limit. Celebrity clients, cookbook deals, maybe even a cooking show." Maya tried to feel excited about these possibilities, but something felt wrong. "David, you keep talking about we and us. What exactly are you planning?" David reached across the table and took her hand. "I'm planning our future together. The future we should have had all along. But what about your job? Your brother's place in Dallas?" David waved dismissively. "The job is fine, but it's not what I really want to do. I want to be your business partner. I want to help you build something amazing." Maya pulled her hand away. "So you want to be my business partner now? 2 months ago you said I was a dreamer who would never succeed. I told you I was wrong about that. I can see how talented you are now. You can see how talented I am now because I'm succeeding without you." David's expression hardened slightly. "Maya, don't let pride keep you from making a smart decision. I'm offering you everything you've ever wanted. Are you? Or are you offering yourself everything you want and expecting me to come along for the ride?" Before David could answer, Maya's phone started buzzing with urgent text messages. The first one was from Jake. "Storm coming, bad one. Need you at ranch if possible." Maya looked outside and saw dark clouds gathering on the horizon. The air had that heavy electric feeling that came before a serious thunderstorm. "I have to go," Maya said, standing up from the table. "Go? Where?" "The ranch. There's a storm coming and they need help." David looked at her incredulously. "Maya, it's just a little rain. They can handle it without you." "It's not just a little rain. This is tornado weather. And we have Mrs. Patterson's birthday party on Saturday. If something happens to the food prep, let them figure it out. We're having an important conversation here." Maya stared at David, seeing him clearly for perhaps the first time. "No, David, you're having a conversation. You're telling me what you think I should do with my life without asking what I want. I'm offering you success. You're offering me what you think success should look like." Maya grabbed her purse and headed for the door. "I have to go. People are counting on me. Maya, if you walk out that door, I'm going back to Dallas tomorrow. This is your last chance." Maya paused with her hand on the door handle. For a moment, she felt the old fear creep in, the fear of being alone, of making the wrong choice, of giving up her dreams. Then she thought about Jake's sad eyes, about Tommy asking for extra cookies, about Pete calling her little chef, about Mrs. Patterson trusting her to make her 70th birthday special. "Then I guess you better have a safe trip," Maya said, and walked out into the gathering storm. Maya had never driven in weather like this. The wind was so strong it pushed her little car around on the road, and the rain was coming down so hard she could barely see where she was going. But she kept driving toward the ranch, guided by the same instinct that had made her get out of her broken-down car and start walking 6 weeks ago. When she arrived at the Lazy W, Jake was standing in the yard in a rain slicker, shouting instructions to his ranch hands over the howling wind. "Maya," he called when he saw her car. "What are you doing here? It's not safe." "I came to help," she shouted back, running toward him through the rain. "You need to get inside. This storm is worse than I thought." As if to prove his point, a crash of thunder shook the ground beneath their feet, and Maya saw a flash of lightning that lit up the whole sky. Jake grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the house. "Come on!" Inside, the house felt like it was shaking. The lights flickered on and off, and Maya could hear things hitting the roof, probably branches and debris blown by the wind. "How bad is it?" Maya asked, toweling off her hair. "Bad. The cattle are spooked, and if they break through the fences, we could lose half the herd. The boys are trying to secure the barns, but if this wind gets much worse..." Another crash of thunder cut him off, followed immediately by a bright flash of lightning. This storm was right on top of them. "What about Saturday? Mrs. Patterson's party?" Jake looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Maya, I figured you'd be going back to Dallas with David. I was going to call Mrs. Patterson tomorrow and cancel." "Cancel? We can't cancel. It's her 70th birthday. We can't have a party if we don't have a ranch to hold it on." Maya looked around the kitchen where she had spent so many happy hours cooking. The thought of losing this place, losing Jake, made her feel sick to her stomach. "What can I do to help?" Jake stared at her. "Maya, you don't have to do this. David is probably right. You should be focusing on your career, not helping some struggling rancher chase cattle in a storm." "Jake Wilson," Maya said firmly, "if you think I'm the kind of person who would abandon someone I care about when they need help, then you don't know me at all." Something shifted in Jake's expression. "Someone you care about?" Before Maya could answer, Tommy burst through the front door soaking wet and breathing hard. "Boss!" he shouted. "The fence in the south pasture is down. The cattle are heading for the highway." Jake cursed under his breath and grabbed his hat. "I have to go help them round up the cattle before they get hit by a truck." "I'm coming with you," Maya said. "Maya, no. It's too dangerous. I'm not letting you go out there alone. You don't know anything about cattle. Then teach me. Quickly." For a moment, Jake just looked at her. Then he grabbed a spare rain slicker from the closet and handed it to her. "Stay behind me, do exactly what I say, and if I tell you to run, you run. Understood?" "Understood." The next 2 hours were the most terrifying and exhilarating of Maya's life. She had never been so wet, so muddy, so scared, or so determined in her entire life. Working together, Jake and his ranch hands managed to guide most of the cattle back to safety before they reached the highway. Maya helped by standing in strategic positions to block the cattle's path, waving her arms and shouting to turn them back toward the ranch. She was terrified the entire time. But she was also amazed by how well Jake commanded the situation. Even in the middle of a crisis, he stayed calm and focused, making sure everyone was safe while protecting his animals and his livelihood. By the time they got the last of the cattle secured in a safer pasture, the storm was beginning to move on. The rain was still falling, but the wind had died down and the lightning was moving east. Maya and Jake stood in the muddy yard, exhausted and filthy, watching the storm clouds disappear over the horizon. "We did it," Jake said, hardly believing it himself. "We did it," Maya agreed, and then started laughing. Jake looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "What's so funny?" "Look at me," Maya said, gesturing to her mud-covered clothes and soaked hair. 6 weeks ago, I was a city girl who'd never seen a cow up close. Tonight, I helped save a whole herd of them in the middle of a tornado. Jake started laughing, too. "You did pretty good for a city girl." "I had a good teacher." They stood there grinning at each other, covered in mud and exhausted but victorious, when Maya suddenly realized something. Jake, I chose. What? I chose. Between David and staying here. Between the restaurant in Dallas and the ranch. I chose. Jake's expression became serious. Maya, I chose you, Maya said, stepping closer to him. I chose this place, this life, these people who have become my family. I chose us, are you sure? Because if you change your mind... Maya reached up and put her hands on either side of Jake's muddy face. Jake, I have never been more sure of anything in my life. David was offering me success, but you're offering me happiness. You're offering me a partnership built on respect and trust and what? Maya took a deep breath. And love. I'm falling in love with you, Jake Wilson. With your kindness and your strength and your dedication to the things that matter. I want to build a life here with you. Jake's smile was so bright it could have lit up the whole ranch. Maya, I've been in love with you since the day you made pancakes for my ranch hands and called Pete sir. I just didn't think someone like you could ever love someone like me. Someone like me? Someone smart and talented and beautiful, who could have anything she wanted in the world. Maya laughed and pulled Jake down for a kiss, right there in the muddy ranch yard under the clearing sky. I can have anything I want, she said against his lips, and what I want is you. 6 months later, Maya stood in the middle of what used to be Jake's old barn, watching the transformation she and Jake had worked so hard to create. String lights hung from the wooden rafters, casting a warm glow over the rustic space. Round tables covered with white linens were arranged around a small dance floor, and the smell of barbecue and fresh bread filled the air. Tonight was the grand opening of Prairie Hearth, their new event venue and catering business. Maya had never been more nervous or more excited in her life. You ready for this? Jake asked, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. Maya leaned back against his chest and looked around at everything they had built together. I think so. Are you? With you? I'm ready for anything. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind of hard work, planning, and dreams coming true in ways Maya had never expected. After the storm, she and Jake had thrown themselves into preparing for Mrs. Patterson's birthday party, which had been such a success that they'd been booked, solid with events ever since. Word had spread quickly through Cedar Creek and the surrounding towns about the ranch that hosted the most beautiful weddings and served the most delicious food. Maya's reputation as a chef had grown beyond anything she had imagined when she first started cooking for Jake's ranch hands. But more than that, Maya and Jake had grown as partners in every sense of the word. They complemented each other perfectly, Maya's creativity and business sense balanced by Jake's practical knowledge and steady presence. Where Maya saw possibilities, Jake saw solutions. Where Jake saw problems, Maya saw opportunities. Look, Jake said, nodding toward the entrance where their first guests were arriving. Here comes Mrs. Henderson. Maya smiled as she watched her former landlady walk in wearing her best dress and a huge smile. Mrs. Henderson had been one of their biggest supporters, recommending Prairie Hearth to everyone she knew and helping spread the word about their business. Behind her came Ruby from the diner. Pete and the other ranch hands all cleaned up in their best clothes, and Sheriff Martinez with his wife. These were the people who had welcomed Maya when she was a stranger with nothing, and now they were here to celebrate her success. Maya, dear, Mrs. Henderson called out as she approached them. This place looks absolutely magical. Thank you, Mrs. Henderson. We couldn't have done it without all your help and support. Nonsense. You two did this with your own hard work and determination. I'm just proud to have played a small part in bringing you to our town. More guests continued to arrive. Families Maya had cooked for, couples whose weddings she had catered, business owners who had become friends. The barn filled with laughter and conversation as people admired the transformation of the space. Tommy appeared at Maya's elbow, looking handsome in a button-down shirt and clean jeans. Miss Maya, people are asking about the food. Should I start serving? Maya looked around at the crowd and felt a familiar flutter of excitement. This was her favorite part, watching people's faces when they tasted something she had made with love. Yes, let's get started. The menu for tonight showcased everything Maya had learned about cooking for her community. There was her famous barbecue brisket, slow-cooked for 12 hours and seasoned with a dry rub she had perfected over months of experimentation. There were her grandmother's tamales, made from the recipe she carried in her heart, fresh cornbread with honey butter, coleslaw with her secret dressing, and beans that had been simmering all day. For dessert, she had made a dozen different options: peach cobbler, chocolate cake, lemon bars, and her grandmother's famous apple pie. But the centerpiece was a 3-layer celebration cake, decorated with buttercream flowers that looked almost too beautiful to eat. As guests filled their plates and found seats, Maya circulated through the room, accepting compliments and watching faces light up with each bite. This never got old. The moment when someone tasted her food and their expression changed from polite interest to genuine delight. "Maya," said a voice behind her. Maya turned to see a woman she didn't recognize, well-dressed, probably in her 40s, with a professional demeanor. "I'm Linda Chen," the woman said, extending her hand. "I drove down from Dallas when I heard about your operation here." Maya felt a little spike of nervousness. "Oh, are you a food critic?" Linda laughed. "Nothing that scary. I'm an event planner. I work with some of the biggest companies in Dallas, and I'm always looking for unique venues for corporate retreats and special events." "Really?" "Really. And I have to say, this place is exactly what some of my clients are looking for. The authentic ranch setting, the incredible food, the attention to detail. It's perfect for companies that want to give their employees or clients an experience they'll never forget." Maya felt Jake appear at her side, and she could sense his curiosity about this conversation. "This is my partner, Jake Wilson," Maya said. "Jake, this is Linda Chen from Dallas." Jake shook Linda's hand politely. "Nice to meet you. You're enjoying the party?" "I'm enjoying everything about this place, which is why I'd like to talk to you both about a business proposition." Maya and Jake exchanged glances. "What kind of proposition?" Maya asked. "I have a client, a major technology company that's looking for a venue for their annual executive retreat. 2 days, about 50 people, and they want something completely different from the usual hotel conference room experience." "That sounds like something we could handle," Jake said carefully. "The retreat is worth about $30,000, Linda continued. "And if it goes well, I have at least 6 other companies that would be interested in similar events." Maya felt her heart start beating faster. $30,000 for one event would be more than they had made in their first 3 months combined. "What would we need to do?" Maya asked. "Accommodate 50 people for 2 nights, provide all meals and meeting spaces, maybe organize some team-building activities, horseback riding, cattle herding demonstrations, that kind of thing." Jake looked thoughtful. "We'd need to expand our lodging capacity. Right now we can only house about 20 people comfortably." "That's doable though, right?" Maya asked. "With some investment, yeah. We could add a few more cabins, maybe convert part of the old bunkhouse." Linda smiled. "I can see you two are thinking like the business partners you are. Why don't you talk it over and give me a call? I think this could be the beginning of a very profitable relationship." After Linda left, Maya and Jake stood together watching their guests enjoy the party. Maya's mind was spinning with possibilities. Corporate retreats, expansion, growth beyond anything they had imagined. "What do you think?" she asked Jake. "I think it's exciting and terrifying, and exactly the kind of opportunity we've been working toward." "But," Jake smiled. "No buts. I'm just amazed at how much our lives have changed in 6 months." Maya looked around the transformed barn, at the people who had become her chosen family, at the man who had become her partner in every way that mattered. "You know what's funny?" she said. "What's that?" 6 months ago, I thought success meant having my own restaurant in a big city, cooking for strangers who might never come back. Now I realize success means cooking for people who matter to you, building something lasting with someone you love." Jake pulled her closer. "No regrets about the restaurant in Dallas?" "None whatsoever. David can keep his big city dreams. I prefer our version of success." As if summoned by his name, Maya caught sight of a familiar figure near the entrance. For a moment, her heart stopped. It was David. He was standing just inside the barn door, looking around with the same judgmental expression he'd worn the last time she saw him. But something was different this time. Maya felt no fear, no uncertainty, no flutter of old feelings. She just felt nothing. "Maya," Jake said quietly, having noticed David too. "Do you want me to ask him to leave?" Maya looked at Jake, solid, dependable, loving Jake, and then back at David. "No, it's okay. Let me go talk to him." Maya walked over to where David stood, and he turned to face her with that same charming smile he'd always used. "Hello, Maya." I was in the area and heard about your little party. Thought I'd stop by and see how you're doing. I'm doing very well, David. What brings you to Cedar Creek? David looked around the transformed barn with obvious surprise. This is not what I expected. Now, what did you expect? I don't know. Something smaller, more amateur. This looks almost professional. Maya felt a spark of the old anger, but it was quickly replaced by something else. Pity. David still didn't understand what she had built here. It is professional, David. This is my business. Our business. Our business? Jake and mine. We're partners. David's expression darkened. Partners in business or partners in life? Maya looked back at Jake, who was watching them from across the room, but giving her space to handle this conversation herself. Both. Maya, you're making a mistake. This whole thing, the ranch, the cowboy, the small-town life, it's not you. How do you know what's me, David? You never bothered to find out. I know you. I dated you for 3 years. No, you dated the person you wanted me to be. You never saw the real me, because you were too busy trying to change me into someone else. David stepped closer, his voice becoming urgent. Maya, listen to me. I've been doing some research and I think I was wrong about the Dallas opportunity. What you've built here could work in a bigger market.